The Krethar Dominion had conquered 847 star systems. For 3 centuries, their fleets had moved through the galaxy like a dark wave, swallowing entire civilizations. The pattern was always the same. Their ships would arrive at the edge of a system, weapons ready and shields glowing with power. They would scan the planets, count the population, measure the technology. Then came the broadcast. Commander Jathik stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the screens as another world fell. The aquatic species called the Velshara had tried to resist. They had built defense platforms around their ocean world. They had armed their vessels with plasma weapons. They had sworn to fight to the last breath. It took 6 hours. Now their leaders knelt before holographic projectors, signing documents of surrender. Their weapons were being collected. Their ships were being absorbed into the Dominion fleet. In a month, no one would remember they had ever been independent. Jathik's second officer, Craval, approached with a data tablet. "Commander, the next target is ready for your review." Jathik took the tablet and studied the information.
System designation: Sol, primary species, human. Technology level: primitive industrial, early space age.
Nuclear fission achieved, chemical rockets, fragmented governments across a single inhabited world. How many nations? Jathik asked. 195 separate political entities, Craval replied. They fight among themselves constantly. Small wars, economic conflicts, territorial disputes. They have come close to nuclear war multiple times. Jathik's face split into what might have been a smile. They cannot even unite their own world, yet they dream of the stars. How long will this take? Analysis suggests 4 hours, Commander. Perhaps less. They have no unified space force. Their largest spacecraft are research stations and satellites. They possess no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light capability. And their response to first contact? Craval checked the data. Models predict panic, followed by attempted negotiation, followed by rapid surrender when they understand the alternative. Standard pattern for divided species. Jathik handed back the tablet. Assemble the third conquest armada. 200 ships should be more than sufficient. We jump in 3 cycles. 3 days later, the Dominion fleet emerged at the edge of the Sol system. 200 warships, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. The massive vessels moved in perfect formation, their hulls black as the void between stars, their weapons ports glowing with contained energy. The sensor stations immediately began their work. They detected the primitive satellites orbiting the third planet. They saw the small space stations, fragile things made of metal and glass. They counted the vessels, shuttles and cargo ships, nothing that could be called military. Scan complete, the sensor officer reported. Population of the third planet, 7.9 billion. Multiple large cities. Atmospheric composition, nitrogen, oxygen. They are vulnerable to standard weapons, Jathik nodded. Open all frequencies. Prepare the standard intimidation broadcast. But before he could give the order to transmit, the sensor officer called out, "Commander, we have a contact." Single vessel emerging from behind their moon. The main screen shifted to show the ship. It was small compared to the Dominion warships, perhaps 1/10 the size of the smallest escort frigate. Its design was strange, brutal and angular, covered in odd protrusions and what looked like armor plating. It moved with purpose, positioning itself directly between the Dominion fleet and the planet. The bridge fell silent. "One ship?" Jathik said quietly. "They send one ship?" "It appears to be military in design," the tactical officer reported. "But it is alone. No support vessels, no backup fleet." Craval leaned closer to examine the screen. "It is too small to matter. Perhaps it is a diplomatic vessel, coming to negotiate terms?" The communication officer spoke up. "Sir, I am reading the hull designation. It identifies as United Earth Space Command Vessel Indomitable." Jathik studied the small ship. It hung in space, tiny and defiant, facing 200 warships with weapons that could turn worlds to ash. It did not run. It did not hide. It simply waited. "This is foolishness," Jathik said. "They must know they cannot win. Perhaps they hope to buy time for their world to prepare defenses." "What defenses could they prepare in ours?" Craval asked. "They have nothing that can harm us." Jathik made his decision. "Target the vessel. Single warning shot. Minimum power. We will vaporize this ship and show the planet below what happens to those who stand against the Dominion." The weapons officer's hands moved across the controls. Targeting locked. Particle beam charged to 20% power. Firing. A lance of blue energy shot across the void. It crossed the distance in seconds, striking the human ship directly amidships. The beam hit. The ship remained. Jothik leaned forward in his command chair. Report. Direct hit confirmed, the weapons officer said, confusion in his voice. But the target is still intact. Sensors show minor hull scoring. No significant damage. Impossible, Krevel breathed. At that range, even at reduced power, the ship should have been destroyed. Jothik felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest. A cold feeling in his chest. Uncertainty. On the screen, the human ship continued to float in space. A small scorch mark marred its hull where the beam had struck. But it was whole. It was functional, and it was not moving aside. The bridge of the Dominion flagship was completely silent. Every officer stared at their screens, checking and rechecking their data. The impossible had just happened. A primitive human vessel had survived a direct hit from Dominion weapons. Jothik's hands gripped the arms of his command chair. Scan that ship again. Full analysis. I want to know what it is made of. The sensor officer worked frantically. Commander, the readings are strange. The hull appears to be composed of layered materials. Carbon-based composites, metallic alloys, and something else. Something our database does not recognize. Explain how it survived, Jothik demanded. I cannot, sir. The energy from our beam should have melted through any known armor at that thickness. But the ship shows minimal damage. It is as if the hull simply absorbed the impact. Krevel moved closer to the main screen, studying the human vessel. Perhaps it was a malfunction? Our weapons may have misfired. The weapons officer shook his head. Negative. All systems show normal operation. The beam fired at specified power levels. It struck the target precisely. Jothik felt anger rising in his chest. 300 years of conquest. 847 worlds. Not once had a single ship defied them like this. Not once had their weapons failed to perform as expected. Target the human vessel again, he ordered. Full power this time. Vaporize it. Sir, full power in this system will... I gave you an order. The weapons officer entered the commands. The flagship's main particle beam charged to maximum. Energy readings climbed. Warning lights flashed across the weapons console as the massive gun prepared to fire enough energy to crack a small moon. Firing. The beam that struck the Indomitable was not blue this time. It was white-hot, a stream of pure destructive force. It hit the human ship dead center. The energy was so intense that the sensors overloaded. The screen went white. Officers shielded their eyes from the glare. When the sensors cleared, everyone on the bridge leaned forward. The human ship was still there. Its hull was blackened now. Small fires burned along one side. Pieces of armor had been blown off, floating in space around the vessel. But the ship itself remained whole. It remained functional, and it remained in position between the Dominion fleet and Earth. This is not possible, the science officer whispered. Nothing should survive that. Nothing. Before Jothik could respond, the communication officer spoke urgently. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Put it on screen. The main display changed. A human appeared. She was female, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to look directly through the camera. She wore a dark blue uniform with insignia on the shoulders. Behind her, the ship's bridge was visible. Smoking consoles, crew members working to contain fires, damage everywhere. But she stood calm, her expression neutral. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command vessel Indomitable, she said. Her voice was steady, without fear. You have fired on a military vessel without provocation. Under the laws of war, I would be justified in returning fire. But I will give you the same chance you gave us. One warning. She paused, letting her words sink in. You have one chance to leave this system. Turn your fleet around and go. If you fire on us again, or if you move toward Earth, we will respond. And you will regret it. Then the transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Several officers looked at each other in disbelief. Krevel's face showed open shock. Jothik felt his anger turn to rage. This human, this representative of a primitive species, dared to threaten him, dared to demand the Dominion retreat? How many ships in their fleet? He asked quietly. Sir, sensors detect only this one vessel. No other military ships anywhere in the system. One ship, Jothik said. One damaged ship with a crew of what, maybe 200? Against our 200 warships and 50,000 warriors. He stood from his chair. They have courage. Foolish, suicidal courage. But courage alone does not win wars. He turned to his tactical officer. Order 10 ships to form a firing line. All ships will target the human vessel simultaneously. Maximum power. I want that ship reduced to atoms. Commander, Krival said hesitantly. Perhaps we should consider... Consider what? Jothic snapped. Retreat? Because one primitive ship with strange armor survived 2 shots. We will destroy it, and then we will destroy their world. No one threatens the Dominion. The 10 ships moved into position. They were Hunter-class destroyers, each one powerful enough to level a continent. They formed a line, their weapons charging in unison. The energy readings climbed higher and higher. On the main screen, the human ship remained motionless. Captain Chen had returned to the view screen. She was watching them prepare to fire. Her expression had not changed. She did not look afraid. She looked disappointed. All ships report ready, the tactical officer said. Fire, Jothic commanded. 10 beams of destructive energy lanced across space. They converged on the Indomitable from different angles, creating a cage of pure power. The combined energy was enough to destroy a small fleet. The sensors overloaded again. The entire bridge was bathed in white light. Jothic shielded his eyes, waiting for the glare to fade. When it did, he looked at the screen with satisfaction. No ship could survive that. No armor in the galaxy could withstand such an assault. The smoke and debris began to clear. The human ship emerged from the cloud. It was heavily damaged now. Entire sections of hull had been blown away. Atmosphere vented from multiple breaches. One of the engine pods was completely gone. Fires burned across the surface, but it was still there, still intact, still operational. And as Jothic watched in growing horror, the battered human vessel began to move. Not away from the fleet. Not into retreat. Toward them. Captain Chen appeared on screen again. The bridge behind her was in chaos. Crew members shouted orders. Alarms blared, but her voice was calm, almost sad. You were warned, she said simply. Now you learn why humanity built ships like this. The transmission cut off, and on every sensor screen across the Dominion fleet, targeting alarms began to scream. Panic spread through the Dominion fleet like a virus. The targeting alarms meant the human ship had locked weapons onto every vessel in the formation. Every single ship, from the smallest scout to Jothic's massive flagship, was painted with targeting solutions. How is this possible? Kreval demanded. Their ship is crippled. Half their system should be offline. The tactical officer's hands moved frantically across his console. Sir, the targeting is not coming from the human ship alone. I am detecting multiple sources. Hidden stations throughout this system. On the rocky inner planets. In the asteroid belt. On the outer moons. They are everywhere, Jothic felt cold. How many sources? Hundreds, Commander. Maybe thousands. They have been hiding them. Waiting. Before Jothic could give orders, Captain Chen's face appeared on every screen in every ship in the Dominion fleet. Not just the flagship. Every vessel. She had overridden their entire communication network. I know what you are thinking, she said. You are thinking this is impossible. You are thinking that a primitive species cannot have this kind of technology. You are right to think that. Under normal circumstances, we would not. Behind her, crew members worked to seal hull breaches and restart damaged systems. But she stood still, her hands clasped behind her back like a teacher addressing students. Let me tell you about humanity, she continued. Let me tell you about Earth. A new image appeared on the screens. A blue and green planet, beautiful and peaceful looking from space. This is our home, Chen said. It looks gentle, does it not? But Earth is what we call a death world. The gravity is stronger than most inhabited planets. The weather is violent and unpredictable. The native life is aggressive and dangerous. For millions of years, our world tried to kill us. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, predators. Our species survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on our planet. The image changed, showing scenes of human history. Ancient wars, medieval battles, modern conflicts. But then we faced something worse than nature, Chen said. We faced each other. Humans fought humans for thousands of years. We invented weapons to kill our own kind. Swords, guns, bombs, chemical weapons. Biological weapons, and finally nuclear weapons. The screen showed mushroom clouds rising over cities. We split the atom and immediately used it to destroy each other. 2 cities were erased in seconds, hundreds of thousands dead, and we learned that we had created something that could end our entire species. So we built more, thousands more. We pointed them at each other and called it peace. Mutual assured destruction. If you attack me, we both die. That was our solution. Jathic listened, his mind racing. This explained nothing. These humans were self-destructive, violent, divided. They should have been easy to conquer. We came so close to ending ourselves, Chen continued. Multiple times we nearly launched every weapon we had. Computer errors, political crises, one man in a submarine with his finger on the button. We survived by luck and the actions of individuals who refused to fire. The screen changed again, showing spacecraft, early rockets, space stations, then newer vessels, military-looking. When we finally reached space, we brought our weapons with us, Chen said. Every nation wanted to be first. Every nation wanted to prove they were stronger. We did not explore space together. We militarized it. Our first orbital platforms were spy satellites. Our first moon missions were about strategic advantage. And when we started building real spacecraft, we built them with one question in mind. She paused, letting the silence draw out. Can it survive a war with other humans? The screen showed the Indomitable being constructed in orbital shipyards. Massive slabs of armor being welded into place. Redundant systems. Multiple hulls. Layer after layer of protection. This ship was not designed to fight aliens, Chen said. We did not know you existed. This ship was designed to survive human weapons. Weapons designed by humans to kill other humans. Weapons created by a species that had already proven it could build devices to destroy its own world. Jathic began to understand. Horror crept into his thoughts. Your particle beams are efficient, Chen continued. They are designed to maximize energy transfer while minimizing power consumption. They are weapons built by a species that conquers through intimidation and overwhelming force. They are meant to destroy ships that were built by species who did not expect to fight. She leaned closer to the camera. Human weapons are not efficient. They are excessive. They are redundant. They are overbuilt because we assumed our enemies would do the same. We designed our ships to survive nuclear bombardment from multiple angles. We designed them to operate with half their systems destroyed. We designed them expecting our opponents to be as paranoid and over-prepared as we are. The image shifted to show weapons platforms emerging from hiding places throughout the Sol system. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. For 50 years we have watched you conquer the galaxy, Chen said. We saw you coming long before you arrived here. We studied every battle. We analyzed every weapon. We learned your tactics. And while you were efficiently conquering worlds that surrendered, we were building weapons we hoped we would never need. Jathic's hands were shaking. How many ships? He whispered as if she could hear him. Chen answered. The Indomitable is one ship. We have 3,000 more like it hidden throughout this system. Each one can survive what you just threw at this one. Each one is armed with weapons that humans spent centuries perfecting. Weapons designed to end worlds. The tactical display showed more contacts appearing. Ships emerging from behind planets, asteroids, orbital debris. They had been there all along, hidden and waiting. You conquered 847 systems, Chen said. You did it because those species chose to surrender rather than die. They made the rational choice. They valued survival over pride. Her expression hardened. Humans are not rational when threatened. Our entire history proves that. We have nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times rather than surrender to each other. Do you really think we will surrender to you? Cravel grabbed Jathic's arm. Commander, we need to retreat. This is not a normal first contact situation. These beings are insane, Jathic finished. They are completely insane. On the screen, Captain Chen nodded as if she agreed. Perhaps. But we are alive. And Earth will remain free. You have one more chance. Turn around and leave. Tell the Dominion that Sol is off limits. Tell them that humans would rather die fighting than live in chains. She looked directly into the camera. Directly at Jathic. Or stay and learn exactly what weapons a species builds when their greatest fear is themselves. Jathic stared at the tactical display. 3,000 ships. The number seemed impossible. His fleet had 200 vessels, and that was considered a massive force. The humans had been building in secret, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Commander, your orders? The weapons officer asked nervously. Jathic said nothing. His mind raced through scenarios. Could this be a bluff? Could the humans be lying about their numbers? But the sensors confirmed it. Ship after ship appeared as they dropped their camouflage. They had been hidden with technology that should not exist for a species at this development level. Cravel stepped closer. Sir, we should consider strategic withdrawal. This system is not worth— No. The word came out harsh and final. Jothik's pride burned like fire in his chest. We do not retreat. We have never retreated. If we run from one system, every other species will think they can stand against us. The Dominion will collapse. Commander, these humans are different. They are bluffing. Jothik slammed his fist on the command console. 3,000 ships? Built in secret. Impossible. These are decoys. Sensor ghosts. Tricks to make us fear. He turned to the tactical officer. Order all ships. Full fleet assault. Target the human vessel and any other ships that appear. We will call their bluff and show them what real military power looks like. The orders went out across the fleet. 200 Dominion warships began moving into attack formation. Their weapons charged. Their shields activated to maximum. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They would conquer this one too. On the screen, Captain Chen watched them prepare. She closed her eyes for a moment as if in pain. When she opened them again, she looked tired. I gave you a chance, she said quietly. Remember that. We tried to warn you. She nodded to someone off screen. Lieutenant, execute Demonstration Protocol 7. Jothik frowned. What is— The Indomitable fired, but not at the Dominion fleet. The weapon fired at an angle, toward empty space beyond the fleet's formation. A single projectile launched from the damaged human ship. It was not energy. It was not a missile. It was simply a piece of metal. The sensors tracked it. The object was cylindrical, maybe 10 meters long. Dense, heavy, moving impossibly fast. The speed reading climbed as the sensors measured. 0.1 light speed. 0.2. 0.4. 0.6. What is that? Kreval demanded. The science officer checked the data, then rechecked it. It appears to be a kinetic weapon. A simple mass accelerated to relativistic speed. But that is impossible. The energy requirements to accelerate even a small mass to that velocity would require 0.9 light speed. The tactical officer interrupted. Still accelerating. Projected path takes it past our fleet formation at a distance of 50,000 kilometers. Jothik watched the projectile on the tactical display. It was going to miss them completely. The humans had fired and missed. More proof this was all theatrics. The metal cylinder passed through the empty space beside the Dominion fleet. The shockwave hit 3 seconds later. Space itself seemed to ripple. The energy wake from the projectile moving at near light speed created a wave of distorted gravity and radiation. 15 ships on the edge of the formation were caught in the effect. Their shields overloaded instantly. Their hulls buckled. Metal twisted. Atmosphere vented. 3 ships simply broke apart. The others tumbled out of formation, dead in space. Their systems fried by the electromagnetic pulse. Alarms screamed across every bridge. Survivors from the damaged ships sent distress calls. The carefully organized formation fell into chaos. Casualty report, Jothik shouted. 12 ships destroyed, sir. 3 more heavily damaged and unable to fight. Crews requesting immediate evacuation. The communication channel opened again. Captain Chen appeared, but this time she was not alone. Behind her stood more humans in military uniforms. Engineers worked at damaged consoles. The ship's crew going about their duties despite the chaos. That was us being gentle, Chen said. We aimed to miss. The projectile passed 50,000 kilometers from your nearest ship. The shockwave alone destroyed 15 of your vessels. If we had aimed at you, your fleet would no longer exist. She pulled up a display. It showed trajectory calculations. Dozens of them, hundreds. Each line showed a path from human weapons to Dominion ships. Every ship was targeted multiple times. This is what you face, Chen explained. Kinetic kill vehicles. We developed them to destroy targets on the other side of our own planet. City killers, bunker busters, weapons designed to be impossible to intercept because they move too fast for anything to stop them. We banned them in human wars because they were too dangerous, too destructive. A single shot could trigger a response that would end our civilization. Jothik felt his certainty crumbling. How many of those weapons do you have? Enough, Chen replied. We have asteroid bases throughout this system. Each base can produce and launch these projectiles. We have been building them for 50 years, Commander. 50 years of asking ourselves, what if someone comes to conquer us? What if we face an enemy we cannot defeat with normal weapons? She gestured to someone off-screen and the image changed. It showed a planet, not Earth, one of the Dominion's conquered worlds. We know about the Velshara, Chen said. We watched you conquer them 6 days ago. They surrendered after 6 hours because they knew they could not win. They made the logical choice. They saved their people. The image shifted back to her face. Humans do not always make the logical choice. Our history is full of last stands, full of people who chose to fight against impossible odds. We honor those who died rather than surrender. We teach our children about the warriors who held the line even when defeat was certain. It is not logical. It is not efficient. But it is who we are. Jathik looked at his remaining fleet. 185 ships now. 15 lost to a single warning shot. If the humans fired in earnest, how many would survive? You have a choice to make, Chen said. You can order your fleet to attack. Some of you will survive long enough to fire your weapons. You might even destroy this ship, but Earth will survive. The weapons platforms hidden throughout this system will survive, and they will fire on every ship you have, at relativistic speeds, from multiple angles. Your shields will not help. Your armor will not save you. She leaned forward, her voice dropping. Or you can leave. Turn your fleet around and go home. Tell the Dominion that you found a species that refuses to be conquered. Tell them that Earth is protected by humans who would rather burn their own world than let others take it. Silence filled the bridge of Jathik's flagship. Every officer waited for orders. Every crew member held their breath. Craval spoke softly. Commander, she is right. These beings are not like others we have conquered. They will not surrender. They will fight until they die or we do. Jathik stared at the tactical display, at the remaining ships of his fleet, at the targeting solution still locked onto every vessel, at the 3,000 human ships now visible throughout the system. His hands shook with rage, with shame, with the terrible knowledge that for the first time in 3 centuries, the Dominion had found a species it could not defeat. All ships, he said, his voice hollow, prepare to retreat. The word retreat hung in the air like poison. Officers across the Dominion flagship looked at each other in shock. In 300 years, that word had never been spoken during a conquest operation. The Dominion did not retreat. The Dominion did not fail. Sir, did you say? The tactical officer began. You heard me, Jathik interrupted, his voice dead. All ships will disengage and withdraw to the system edge. We are leaving, the orders went out. Across the fleet, engines powered up for retreat. Ships began turning away from Earth, away from the human vessels, away from the weapons that had destroyed 15 warships with a single demonstration shot. On the main screen, Captain Chen watched them prepare to leave. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply nodded once, a gesture of acknowledgement. A wise choice, Commander, she said. Your ships will not be pursued. You may collect your dead and damaged vessels. We will give you 6 hours to leave our system. After that, any Dominion ship remaining in Sol space will be considered hostile and will be destroyed. Jathik wanted to respond with anger, with threats, with promises of return. But the words would not come. He had seen what human weapons could do. He had seen their willingness to die rather than surrender. Any threats he made would be empty. The channel closed. The human ships remained in formation, watching the Dominion fleet retreat. 3,000 vessels against his remaining 185. Even without the kinetic weapons, the numbers alone would have been overwhelming. Craval approached the command chair carefully. Sir, should I prepare a preliminary report for High Command? Jathik nodded slowly. Tell them we encountered an unexpected level of resistance. Tell them the species possesses advanced weapons and defensive capabilities. Recommend full quarantine of this system pending further analysis. And the truth, sir? About why we truly retreated. Jathik looked at his second officer. Craval had been with him for 40 years, through dozens of conquests. The younger officer deserved honesty. Tell them we found a species that evolved to destroy itself and somehow survived. Jathik said quietly. Tell them the humans are not worth conquering because they will fight to the last individual. Tell them that some species cannot be intimidated because they have already faced extinction and chose to continue anyway. 5 hours later, the last Dominion ship crossed the boundary of the Sol system. Behind them, Earth continued to spin, its blue oceans and green continents untouched by Dominion weapons. The human fleet did not pursue. They simply watched, making sure the invaders were truly leaving. In the Dominion High Command, thousands of light years away, the report from HYF arrived. Senior commanders gathered in the war room to review the data. They watched the recordings of the battle. They studied the human weapons. They analyzed the encounter from every angle. The debate lasted 3 days. Some commanders argued for a larger fleet. If 200 ships were not enough, send 2,000. Send 20,000. Crush the humans with overwhelming numbers. Others pointed out the logistics. The humans had 50 years to prepare defenses. Their system was fortified beyond anything the Dominion had encountered. The asteroid belt alone contained thousands of hidden weapons platforms. A larger fleet would mean more casualties, not victory. The science division provided the final piece of analysis. They had studied human history, pulled from the data the Dominion scouts had gathered. They presented their findings to High Command. The species is evolutionarily adapted for warfare, the chief scientist reported. Their planet is categorized as a death world. Extreme gravity, violent weather, aggressive native life. The humans survived by becoming apex predators. Then they turned that aggression on themselves. The scientists showed images of human wars, ancient battles with swords and spears, modern conflicts with aircraft and tanks, nuclear explosions, chemical weapons, biological warfare. They have nearly destroyed themselves at least 12 times in recorded history, the scientists continued. Each time they stepped back from the brink at the last moment. They possess technology to render their own planet uninhabitable, but they choose not to use it. This suggests extreme discipline combined with extreme capability. What is your recommendation? The High Commander asked. Quarantine, permanent and absolute. Mark Sol as a prohibited system. Do not engage. Do not attempt to contact. These beings are too dangerous to conquer and too unstable to negotiate with. They are a species that built weapons to kill themselves and then pointed those weapons at the stars, waiting for someone to threaten them. The High Commander studied the data in silence. Finally, they made their decision. Quarantine approved. All Dominion fleets are hereby ordered to avoid Sol system. Establish an exclusion zone of 50 light years. Any ship entering that zone without authorization will be considered lost. Commander HYF's tactical assessment is noted and accepted. He will retain his command as he successfully avoided total fleet destruction. The orders went out across the Dominion. On every star chart, Sol system was marked in red. Forbidden. Off limits. A warning to all species. There are humans there, and humans are not to be disturbed. On Earth, the celebration lasted 3 days. Cities lit up with fireworks. People gathered in streets, hugging strangers, crying with relief. The governments that had nearly gone to war over who would negotiate with the aliens now stood together, united by the shared experience of facing extinction and surviving. Captain Sarah Chen returned to Earth as a hero. The Indomitable was towed back to orbital dock, its scarred hull a permanent reminder of the day humanity said no to the galaxy. Chen stood before world leaders, before cameras, before billions of people watching on screens across the planet. We won, she said simply, but not because we were stronger. We won because we were willing to lose everything rather than surrender. That is humanity's greatest strength and greatest weakness. We do not know when to quit. In the crowd, a young girl held her father's hand and looked up at him. Papa, were they really going to destroy Earth? Her father looked at the damaged ship on the screen, at Captain Chen standing proud despite her exhaustion. Yes, but we showed them something they did not expect. What? That humans are too crazy to conquer, that we would rather die free than live as slaves, that we built weapons to destroy ourselves and then use those weapons to protect ourselves. The girl thought about this. Is that good? Her father smiled sadly. I do not know, but it kept us alive. On the lunar surface, engineers began constructing a monument, a simple stone column with words carved in every human language. The message was short. Here stands humanity, divided but defiant, flawed but free. We asked the universe for peace and prepared for war. We survived because we refused to surrender. May those who come after us remember. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and the cost of peace is the willingness to fight. In space, the human fleet remained on high alert. The ships continued their patrols. The weapons platforms stayed active. The kinetic kill vehicles remained ready to fire, because humanity had learned its lesson well. They had survived by being too dangerous to conquer, too stubborn to intimidate, too willing to sacrifice everything, and in the cold mathematics of galactic conquest, that made them worthless as targets and invaluable as survivors. Earth was closed. Forever. And the humans, those strange, violent beings from the death world, had earned their place among the stars by refusing to bow, refusing to break, and proving that some species would rather burn than bend. Humanity, in all its flawed, excessive, paranoid glory, was free. The year was 2157. Earth had changed a lot. People lived on Mars, Europa, and Titan now. Ships went far into space looking for new places and maybe new life. The exploration ship Horizon moved slowly through the Tau Ceti star system. Commander, Lisa Wright sat in her chair on the bridge. She watched the stars on the big screen in front of her. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange," said Officer Megan Young. Her fingers moved quickly over her console. "It's a signal. Not natural." Lisa walked over to Megan's station. "Show me." The screen showed a pattern of pulses. They repeated in a way that couldn't be random. "First Officer Miller to the bridge," Lisa called through the ship system. "Jack?" Miller arrived minutes later. He was tall, with short brown hair and tired eyes. "What do we have, Commander?" "A signal. Not one of ours." Lisa pointed at the screen. "Can you decode it?" Jack looked at the pattern for a long time. He tapped at the controls, trying different approaches. After 3 hours of work, he stood up with a smile. "It's a message. A greeting." His voice was excited. "Commander, we just made first contact." The crew gathered to watch as Jack played the decoded message. It showed beings that looked almost like giant insects. They stood on 2 legs but had 4 arms. Their skin was blue-green and shiny. "We are the Nigma Empire," the message said in slightly broken English. "We detect your ship. We wish to meet." Lisa looked at her crew. "Well, this is what we trained for. Send a reply. Tell them we accept." 2 days later, a Nigma ship appeared near the horizon. It was 3 times larger, shaped like a curved blade. It shone with a strange purple light. The Nigma leader, who called himself Ambassador Krelzax, agreed to come aboard the Horizon with 2 guards. Lisa, Jack, and Science Officer Peter Collins met them in the ship's conference room. Krelzax was taller than a human by a full head. His 4 arms moved in fluid motions as he spoke. "Greetings, humans. We are pleased to find new life. The Nigma Empire spans hundreds of stars. We wish friendship." Lisa smiled and nodded. "We're happy to meet you too. Humanity is still young in space travel. We have much to learn." "Yes. Very young." Krelzax's mouth parts clicked. "We will teach. We will share." The meetings continued for days. The Nigma talked about their empire, their technology, their history. They asked many questions about Earth, about human weapons, about defense systems. Peter Collins noticed something odd. He brought it up during a private meeting with Lisa and Jack. "Their stories keep changing," Peter said. "Yesterday they said they've known space travel for 10,000 years. Today they said 5,000. Jack nodded. "And they're very interested in our military capabilities, more than our culture or science." "Keep watching them," Lisa ordered. "But be friendly. We don't want to seem suspicious." Communications specialist Amy Garcia joined their meeting late. Her face was worried. "Commander, I've been monitoring their ship's transmissions," she said. "They're using some kind of code, but I've been able to translate some of it." "That wasn't part of your orders," Lisa said with a frown. "I know, but something felt off." Amy placed a tablet on the table. "They're scanning our ship, every detail, and they're sending it all back to their empire." Jack looked at the partial translations. "These aren't friendly scans, they're looking for weaknesses." "There's more," Amy said. "I found references to something called Standard Conquest Procedure, and our ship is listed as pre-assessment target." The room went quiet. Lisa stared at the report. "So this isn't a friendly first contact?" "It seems not," Peter agreed. "They're sizing us up." Lisa stood and walked to the window. The Nigma ship floated in the darkness, beautiful, but now threatening. "We need to warn Earth," she said. "But we also need to keep the Nigma thinking we're clueless. If they realize we're onto them, they might attack immediately. Jack leaned forward. We could send a coded message in our regular report. Something that wouldn't alert the Nigma if they intercept it. Lisa nodded. Do it. Meanwhile, we keep playing nice. The next day, Ambassador Krelzax requested a tour of the Horizon's engine room. Lisa agreed, but had security subtly increased. Your propulsion is primitive, Krelzax said, his upper arms waving dismissively. Nigma ships travel between stars in days, not years. We would love to learn from your advanced technology, Lisa said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Yes, soon your people will see Nigma technology up close. Krelzax made a sound that might have been a laugh. Very close. That night, Amy intercepted another transmission from the Nigma ship. This one she was able to decode more fully. Commander, they're calling for more ships, she reported. They're saying humans are primitive and would make suitable additions to their empire. Lisa called her senior officers together. We need to get back to Earth as soon as possible. Jack, tell the Nigma we're cutting our meeting short due to a technical issue with our life support systems. They might not believe that, Jack warned. They don't need to believe it. They just need to let us go. Lisa's voice was firm. We'll tell them we're returning to our nearest base for repairs. Once we're away, we'll make maximum speed for Earth. The Nigma seemed to accept their excuse. The Horizon broke away from the meeting point and set course away from Tau Ceti. They're following at a distance, Megan reported from her sensor station, staying just at the edge of our detection range. Let them, Lisa said, as long as we get home with our warning. 2 weeks later, the Horizon approached the outer edges of the solar system. Their coded warning had gone ahead of them. A small fleet of Earth ships waited for them. As they docked at the Mars orbital station, Admiral Richard Hayes met them personally. Your warning arrived, he said grimly, and it's not the only one. We've had reports of Nigma ships appearing across our space, always friendly, always asking questions. Lisa nodded. They're preparing for something. Yes. Admiral Hayes looked out the window at the red planet below. And thanks to you, we'll be ready when they make their move. In the darkness beyond, Neptune, the first of many Nigma warships, slipped into the solar system. They thought they were unseen. They thought Earth would be easy to conquer. They were wrong. 6 months passed. Nigma ships appeared all over human space. They said they came for friendship. They called it cultural exchange. But their ships always went to important places. They always asked about defenses. Admiral Richard Hayes stood at the window in his office on Luna Base. Earth hung in the black sky, blue and beautiful. 3 Nigma ships floated in orbit around it. They weren't supposed to be there. They're positioning themselves near our defense platforms, said Captain Linda Ross. She pointed to a map on the screen. See the pattern? Richard nodded. The Nigma ships made a triangle around Earth's main orbital weapon stations. It wasn't random. What's the latest from Mars? He asked. Linda handed him a tablet. Governor Susan Brown reports Nigma visitors tried to enter the Defense Control Center yesterday. They said they got lost. Richard read the report with a frown. No one got lost in a high-security area with guards and locked doors. And the Europa incident? He asked. The mining station is gone. 18 people dead. Linda's voice was tight with anger. The Nigma say it was an accident. Their ship fired weapons during a system test and didn't know our station was there. Richard put down the tablet. An accident? Sure. And I'm the king of Mars. His communication screen lit up. Admiral United Space Command meeting in 15 minutes. In the meeting room, military leaders from Earth and all colonies gathered. Some were there in person. Others appeared as holograms. All looked worried. Intelligence Officer Daniel Green stood at the front of the room. He was young, but his eyes looked old. We've collected information about the Nigma for 6 months, he said. What we found isn't good. He showed images of planets, worlds with ruins, dead cities. These were civilizations the Nigma said were their friends. All gone now. Daniel changed the image. We found survivors on some worlds. They told us the Nigma always come the same way. First contact, cultural exchange, then suddenly attack. Admiral Hayes stood up. So they're preparing to attack us too. Yes, sir. And soon, we think. Next to speak was Dr. Alan Carter, a scientist, who studied alien life forms. We've examined Nigma technology from items they left behind. They have weapons that can destroy entire cities. Their ships can travel faster than light. They think we are primitive. Richard looked around the room. So what do we do? Roll over and surrender? Governor Susan Brown's hologram shook her head. We fight, but how? Their technology is beyond ours. Richard smiled for the first time. Is it, Dr. Carter? Tell them about the recovered tech. Alan stood, again. We've studied the Nigma weapons. Yes, they're advanced, but not as advanced as they think. And they have weaknesses. The room was silent as Alan explained the flaws in Nigma shields, how their weapons used energy in ways that could be disrupted. We can fight them, he finished. It won't be easy, but we can. After the meeting, Admiral Hayes sent a message to the Nigma ships. It was simple and clear. The people of Earth have observed Nigma actions in our space. You have positioned warships near our planets. You have entered restricted areas. You have destroyed human property and killed human citizens. These are not the actions of friends. You will remove your ships from human space immediately. This is our only warning. The Nigma commander, General Vraxel, sent a reply quickly. His insect-like face filled the screen in Richard's office. Humans are amusing. You think you can give orders to the Nigma Empire? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys. We were going to offer you a place in our empire as servants. Now you will be slaves. You have 1 day to surrender. The screen went dark. Richard looked at his officers. Well, they've made their choice, he said quietly. Activate Operation Firewall. All across the solar system, hidden defense systems came to life. On Luna Base, weapons specialist Frank Howard entered a code into a computer. Satellites that the Nigma thought were for communication suddenly revealed hidden weapons. On Mars, Governor Susan Brown evacuated civilians to underground shelters. In orbit around Jupiter, Commander Eric Santos prepared a fleet of ships the Nigma didn't know existed. The Nigma attacked at dawn Earth time. Their ships fired strange purple beams at Earth's orbital defenses. Some stations exploded, but others fired back with weapons the Nigma had never seen before. In his command ship, General Vraxel watched in surprise as his first attack failed. Impossible. Their technology is too primitive to resist. His second-in-command looked at their screens. General, we're detecting new weapon signatures. They're not the same as our intelligence reported. It doesn't matter, Vraxel said. Send in the main fleet. 500 Nigma ships jumped into Earth orbit. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they found hell. Earth's defenders had prepared for this day. Frank Howard's hidden satellites fired quantum disruption beams that cut through Nigma shields. From Mars, missile platforms launched warheads that tracked Nigma engine signatures. From Jupiter came Commander Santos with 100 ships that moved in ways the Nigma couldn't predict. They seemed to disappear and reappear, firing from impossible angles. What is happening? Vraxel shouted as his screen showed Nigma ships falling one after another. How can they fight like this? Their technology was primitive. General, we're losing too many ships, his officer reported. We need to retreat and regroup. Vraxel hissed in anger but gave the order. The Nigma fleet pulled back, jumping to safety beyond Neptune. On Luna Base, Admiral Hayes watched them go. They'll be back, he said to his officers, and with more ships. But now they know we're not easy prey. Captain Linda Ross nodded. Should we pursue them? Not yet. Richard's face was serious. Let's see what Dr. Maria Lopez has found. She's been analyzing their attack patterns. In her lab on Titan, Dr. Lopez was already sending her report. The Nigma were strong, but they had weaknesses. Their ships couldn't maneuver well at close range. Their weapons took 12 seconds to recharge after firing. Their communications could be jammed. We can beat them, Richard told his commanders as they prepared for the next battle. They think they're gods among the stars. It's time to show them they're not. In the darkness of Space, the Nigma fleet regrouped. General Vraxel sent an urgent message to the Nigma homeworld. Humans more dangerous than expected. Send reinforcements. He didn't know the humans were listening. He didn't know they had already begun their counterattack. The Nigma didn't understand what had happened. How could humans fight back so well? Humans were supposed to be weak. Their ships were supposed to be slow and simple. Their weapons were supposed to be primitive. What the Nigma didn't know was that humans had prepared for this day for a very long time. Deep under the Pacific Ocean on Earth was a secret place. It was built inside a mountain beneath the water. Only a few people knew it existed. Its name was Project Sunrise, and it was humanity's greatest secret. Inside this underwater mountain, Project Director Karen Johnson walked down a long hallway. She was tall with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. 20 of Earth's top military leaders followed her. Some looked nervous, some looked excited. All were silent. Karen stopped at a large metal door and pressed her hand against a scanner. The door opened with a soft hiss. "Welcome to the future of warfare," she said, as they entered a vast room filled with strange machines and busy scientists. Chief Engineer John Murphy met them. He was shorter than Karen, with wrinkled skin and strong hands that had built impossible things. "Is it true?" asked General William Patterson of the Space Force. "You have weapons that can beat the Nigma?" John nodded. Not just weapons, a whole new kind of science. He led them to a clear container where a small device floated in the air. It didn't touch the sides of the container, it glowed with blue light. "This is the Void Cascade device," John explained. "For 50 years, we've known that alien contact might happen, and it might not be friendly, so we prepared." "But the Nigma, technology is so advanced," said one admiral. Karen smiled. "Is it? Or do they just use the same old science in bigger ways? We chose a different path. We explored physics that most scientists thought impossible." John pointed to the floating device. "The Nigma use standard energy weapons, plasma, lasers, particle beams. They just make them bigger and stronger than ours. But the Void Cascade works differently. It doesn't attack matter. It attacks the space between matter." The military leaders looked confused. "Think of it this way," Karen said. "If you want to destroy a building, you can use a bigger bomb. That's what the Nigma do. Or you can change how gravity works just around that building. Make it pull sideways instead of down. That's what we do." "And it works?" asked General Patterson. "It worked pretty well in our first battle," John said, with a smile. "But that was just the beginning. We've only activated our smallest defenses so far." Karen led them to another room where a wall-sized screen showed the solar system. Small dots of light showed where defense systems were hidden. "Operation Firewall was just phase 1, she explained. "We have weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt, in the moons of Jupiter, even in the clouds of Saturn. On the moon, weapons specialist Frank Howard was working too. Under the surface of the moon were hidden hangars. Inside these hangars were satellites that looked normal from the outside, but inside they held quantum disruptors that could shut down Nigma shields." Frank checked the last satellite and nodded to his team. "Launch all units," he ordered. "Spread them around Earth orbit, but keep them powered down. We don't want the Nigma to detect them until it's too late." The Nigma were regrouping. General Vraxel was angry. His first attack had failed. Many ships were destroyed. The Emperor would not be happy. "How did they do it?" he demanded of his science officer. "How did primitive humans defeat our attack?" The science officer looked afraid. "It appears they have technology we didn't know about. Our scans show energy, signatures we've never seen before." "Impossible!" Vraxel slammed his fist down. "We are the Nigma. We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy." "Yet we lost the battle," the science officer said quietly. Vraxel turned away. "Prepare for another attack. This time we will not hold back." But the humans weren't waiting for the Nigma to attack again. In orbit around Jupiter, Commander Eric Santos prepared a special fleet of ships. They were small and fast. Their engines worked differently than normal human ships. They could change direction instantly, moving in ways that seemed impossible. "Phase shift fighters ready," reported his second-in-command. Eric nodded. Remember your training. The Nigma expect ships to move in straight lines or gentle curves. Our phase shift technology lets us jump sideways instantly. Use that surprise to get past their shields. His fleet of 100 small fighters moved out from behind Jupiter's moon Callisto. They flew in formation toward the place where the Nigma fleet was gathering. Vraxel saw them coming. A small attack force, they must be desperate. He laughed, a clicking sound that echoed around his bridge. Destroy them all. The Nigma ships fired their purple energy beams, but something strange happened. The human ships disappeared right before the beams hit them. Then they reappeared in different places. Some appeared right next to Nigma ships, too close for the big alien vessels to target. What is happening? Vraxel shouted. Where did they go? They're using some kind of short-range teleportation, his science officer said in shock. That's not possible with their level of technology. Commander Santos sent his orders. Target their engine sections. Fire phase disruptors. The human fighters fired blue beams that cut through Nigma shields like they weren't there. Nigma ships began to drift, their engines dead. Back on Earth, Admiral Hayes watched the battle on his screens. Phase 1 is working, he said to his officers. Now for Phase 2. Captain Wilson, is the retribution ready? Captain Laura Wilson's face appeared on his screen. She stood on the bridge of Earth's newest warship, hidden until now. Ready and waiting, Admiral, she replied. The Nigma have no idea we exist. The retribution was humanity's secret weapon. Built in the dark side of the moon, it was larger than any ship humans had ever made public. Its hull was black and absorbed light, making it nearly invisible in space. Inside, it carried weapons based on the Void Cascade technology. Move into position, Admiral Hayes ordered. Wait for my signal to attack. As the retribution moved silently toward the battle, Dr. Maria Lopez worked in her lab on Titan. She had been studying Nigma biology from samples collected during the first battle. Admiral, she called over the communication system, I've found something important. The Nigma have a weakness in their nervous system. Their bodies react badly to a specific electromagnetic frequency. Can we use that? Hayes asked. Yes. I'm sending the details now. If we broadcast this frequency near them, it will disrupt their ability to think clearly. They won't be able to fight properly. Hayes smiled. Perfect. Send the frequency to all ships. We'll use it in our next attack. The Nigma thought they knew all about humans. They thought humans were simple and weak. They were wrong. Humans had been preparing for this fight for generations. And now the Nigma were about to learn just how wrong they had been. The Nigma fleet pulled back after their second defeat. General Vraxel could not understand what was happening. His ships were damaged. His crews were confused. Nothing made sense. How can humans have such technology? He asked his officers. Our report said they were 100 years behind us. No one could answer him. The truth was simple but hard for the Nigma to accept. Humans had lied. They had hidden their best technology. They had prepared for war while talking about peace. On Earth, Admiral Hayes called a war council. Leaders from all human colonies met in a secure room deep under the Atlantic Ocean. The Nigma are retreating to regroup, he told them. Now is the time to strike back. Dr. Maria Lopez stood up. She showed images of the recent battles. We've analyzed their tactics. The Nigma always attack the same way. They rely on superior firepower and don't adapt well when surprised. Admiral Hayes nodded. They think in straight lines. We need to think in circles. He turned to Captain Laura Wilson. The retribution will lead our counterattack. We're not just going to defend ourselves anymore. We're going to push them out of our solar system. Laura stood tall in her black uniform. My ship and crew are ready, sir. The Void Cascade weapons are fully charged. Good. Hayes looked around the room. This isn't just about survival now. The Nigma have attacked dozens of worlds before us. They've enslaved or killed countless beings. It's time someone stopped them for good. Paul Jenkins, the Strategic Operations Director, spoke next. We're ready to implement Protocol Sunburn. He showed a map of space around the solar system. These devices will disrupt Nigma communications. They won't be able to call for help or coordinate their attacks. The Council agreed on the plan. Humanity would not just defend, they would attack. The next day, Captain Laura Wilson stood on the bridge of the Retribution. Her ship moved silently through space, approaching the Nigma fleet. Though the Retribution was huge, its special hull absorbed light and sensor scans. The Nigma couldn't see it coming. "All stations report ready," said her first officer. Laura nodded. "Begin broadcast on the frequency Dr. Lopez discovered." From the Retribution, a signal went out. It wasn't a sound or a light. It was an electromagnetic pulse at a very specific frequency. When it reached the Nigma ship, strange things began to happen. Inside the Nigma vessels, the aliens began to struggle. They couldn't think clearly. Their forearms moved slowly. Their eyes couldn't focus. Some fell to the floor. "What is happening to us?" General Vraxel asked, his voice weak. "Are we poisoned?" His science officer tried to answer but couldn't form words properly. That's when the Retribution attacked. Laura gave the order, "Fire main void cascade cannon." From the front of the ship, a beam of blue-white energy shot out. It didn't hit the Nigma ships directly. Instead, it hit the space between them. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself seemed to bend. The space around the Nigma ships twisted. Their shields failed. Their hulls cracked. "All fighters launch now," Laura ordered. From the Retribution, smaller ships flew out. They surrounded the confused Nigma fleet, firing weapons that shut down Nigma systems without destroying the ships completely. In the confusion, a special team led by Commander Gregory Taylor approached the Nigma command ship. Their small vessel looked like debris floating among the damaged Nigma ships. "Ready for boarding," Greg told his team of 6 soldiers. "Remember, our mission is to get their navigation data. We need to know where all Nigma worlds are located." They attached their ship to the hull of Vraxel's command vessel. Using special tools, they cut through the metal quietly. The Nigma inside were still affected by the electromagnetic frequency and didn't notice the intruders. Greg and his team moved through the alien ship like ghosts. They found a data center where star maps and coordinates were stored. "Download everything," Greg ordered. "This is the key to ending this war." While the team got the data, the battle outside continued. The human ships moved in patterns the Nigma couldn't predict. The electromagnetic frequency kept the aliens confused and slow. More human ships arrived from Mars, from the Moon, from Europa. They surrounded the Nigma fleet. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Nigma faced an enemy that was winning. General Vraxel struggled to think clearly through the effects of the frequency. Send a message to the Emperor," he told his communications officer. "Tell him, we need the entire Imperial fleet." But the message never went out. Paul Jenkins's protocol Sunburn was working. Special devices placed around the solar system blocked all Nigma communications. They were alone and cut off from help. Greg and his team finished downloading the Nigma data and escaped back to their ship. They returned to the Retribution just as Admiral Hayes arrived on his command vessel. "We have it, sir," Greg reported, handing over the data. "Everything we need. The location of every Nigma world, colony, and outpost." Hayes looked at the star map with all the Nigma locations marked. "This is it. This is how we end this threat forever." On the main battle screen, they watched as the remaining Nigma ships were disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. The humans took care to capture as many as possible intact. "The Nigma Emperor needs to see this," Hayes said. "He needs to understand what happens when you attack humanity." As if in answer to his words, a transmission came in from deep space. It was from the Nigma homeworld. The Emperor himself, Drazkor, appeared on the screen. He was larger than other Nigma with golden patterns on his blue-green skin. "Humans," he said, his voice deep and clicking. "You have surprised us. But this small victory means nothing. The Nigma Empire spans hundreds of worlds. We have millions of ships. Surrender now, and perhaps we will be merciful." Admiral Hayes looked at Captain Wilson. "Show him." Laura sent a transmission back to the Emperor. It showed the Nigma fleet, once powerful, now floating helpless in space. It showed human ships with technology the Nigma had never seen before. "This isn't a small victory," Hayes told the Emperor. "This is just the beginning. You should have listened to our warning." The Emperor's face showed no emotion. Nigma faces couldn't, but his voice shook slightly. "Impossible. You are bluffing. Humans cannot have such power." "We're not bluffing," Hayes replied. "And now we're coming for you." The transmission ended. Hayes turned to his commanders. "Prepare all ships. We take the fight to their homeworld." The time for defense was over. Now humanity would show the galaxy why it was dangerous to ignore their warnings. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system. 500 ships led by Admiral Hayes on his command vessel and Captain Laura Wilson on the Retribution. They prepared to jump to the Nigma homeworld of Kraz-Tur. "All ships report ready," said Captain Wilson over the communication system. "The Void Cascade technology has been installed on every vessel." Admiral Hayes looked at the star map showing their destination. The Nigma Emperor had gathered his remaining forces at their homeworld. He thought his superior numbers would protect him. He was wrong. "This isn't just about Earth anymore," Hayes told his commanders. "We have a chance to free dozens of worlds from Nigma control, to end their empire of conquest forever." The fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, using technology the Nigma didn't know humans possessed. In just 3 days they arrived at Kraz-Tur. The Nigma homeworld was a large planet with 3 moons. Around it floated thousands of Nigma ships. They had called every vessel from across their empire to defend their home. Emperor Drazkor sat on his throne on the largest moon. His advisors stood around him, their forearms moving nervously. "The humans have arrived," one reported. "But only 500 ships. We have 5,000. Drazkor clicked his mouthparts together. "Good. They are brave but foolish. Destroy them all." In space near the planet, Admiral Hayes opened a communication channel to all Nigma ships and to the planet below. "People of the Nigma Empire," he said. "I am Admiral Richard Hayes of Earth. We did not want this war. We asked for peace. You chose violence. This is your final chance. Surrender now and live." Emperor Drazkor himself responded. His image appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. "Surrender? To you? The Nigma have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. We have conquered 100 species. You are nothing to us. Your handful of ships cannot defeat our armada." Hayes looked at the Emperor's image with calm eyes. "You still don't understand what you're facing. This is your last warning." "No," Drazkor said. "This is yours." He gave a signal, and the Nigma fleet moved forward to attack. 5,000 ships against 500. The Nigma thought victory was certain, but they had not learned their lesson. Admiral Hayes gave a simple order. "Execute Operation Starfall." From the Retribution, Dr. Ryan Cooper activated the main Void Cascade device. He was a quantum physicist who had helped develop the technology over 20 years. "Void Cascade at full power," he reported, targeting the space around the Nigma fleet. The Retribution fired, but this time the beam was different. It split into hundreds of smaller beams, each targeting a different section of space around the Nigma ships. Reality itself seemed to bend. The Nigma ships didn't explode or break apart. Instead, their systems simply stopped working. Engines died. Weapons went dead. Life support systems continued to function, but nothing else. At the same time, the human fleet broadcast the special electromagnetic frequency that disrupted Nigma nervous systems. Throughout the enemy fleet, Nigma soldiers and officers fell into confusion, unable to think clearly or give orders. On his moonbase, Emperor Drazkor watched in horror as his mighty fleet became useless in minutes. "What is happening?" he demanded. "How can they do this?" No one could answer him. The Nigma had never faced an enemy like humans before. An enemy who thought differently, who developed technology along paths the Nigma had never explored. Admiral Hayes sent small teams to board the disabled Nigma ships. They didn't kill the crews. They simply took control of the vessels and locked the Nigma in secure areas. Send. The message to all Nigma worlds, Hayes ordered. Throughout Nigma space, on every planet and colony they controlled, the same message played. The Nigma Empire has fallen. Your ships are disabled. Your emperor has been defeated. Humanity does not seek conquest. We seek justice. All enslaved peoples are now free. On many worlds, the message was met with celebration. Species that had lived under Nigma control for generations suddenly found their oppressors powerless. Admiral Hayes and Captain Wilson led a team down to the Emperor's palace on the moon. They walked through grand halls built with the wealth of conquered worlds. Nigma guards stood frozen, affected by the electromagnetic frequency. Emperor Drazkor sat on his throne, struggling to think clearly through the effects of the frequency. "How?" he asked as the humans approached. "How did you defeat us so easily?" Hayes stood before the Emperor. "Because you made a simple mistake. You thought technological advancement only moves in one direction, your direction. You never considered that other species might discover things you hadn't," Laura Wilson added. "And you never learned the most important lesson. Don't threaten a species until you know what they're truly capable of." The Emperor looked at them with his large, compound eyes. "What happens now? Will you destroy us as we would have destroyed you?" Hayes shook his head. "No, that's the difference between us. We don't want to rule or destroy. The Nigma Empire is over. Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. Your people will live, but not as conquerors." In the days that followed, representatives from worlds previously conquered by the Nigma gathered together. Admiral Hayes met with them on a neutral planet. "The Nigma have been contained," he told the gathered representatives. "Their ability to make war has been removed. They will be restricted to their homeworld until they learn to live in peace." A tall being with purple skin asked, "And what of Earth? Will you take the Nigma's place as rulers of these stars?" Hayes smiled and shook his head. "No, Earth has no interest in empire. We propose a new galactic concord. All worlds equal, all species free to develop in their own way." The representatives talked among themselves. Most nodded in agreement. One by one, they stepped forward to join the new alliance. As Hayes prepared to return to Earth, he looked back at the stars. The Nigma Empire had ruled through fear for thousands of years. Now it was gone, erased from the stars not by destruction but by defeat. On 1,000 worlds, people looked up at the night sky and knew things had changed. The stars were free again. And throughout the galaxy, a new saying spread among the stars. Remember the Nigma. Remember what happened when they ignored humanity's warning. When asked why humans had prepared so carefully for war while talking about peace, Admiral Hayes had a simple answer. Humanity never wanted to be conquerors. We simply refused to be conquered.